What's up, Grant?
Nothing much.
Here for the Coach Weinstein?
Yeah,
You're right. You're in the right spot.
perfect. Thank
Just
you.
setting a few things up from here. Just hang in there.
Thank you.
You got it, man. Where are you from, Grant?
Ohio.
Okay. Obviously a catcher.
Yeah.
You look like a linebacker and a catcher.
Oh yeah, I play center in football actually.
Oh, you do? Good for you.
Yeah.
Dude. Keep playing. Don't give up that sport.
No, I like them all.
Good. I see Coach's phone trying to connect.
Yeah, mine took a while there.
Did it?
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on.
Hey, Coach.
And there won't be any breeze underneath or anything.
Oh, no, that thing's gonna be sealed.
Oh, beautiful.
No, but I lowered the whole frame because it was sitting up on 1.75 inches, and I lowered it down,
Thanks.
I think,
See you tomorrow.
1.25 inches.
Is that your tech assistant there, Coach?
Yeah, kind of.
So I tell you, while we're getting started here, quick funny story. So, as all of us, we're kind of learning Zoom a bit. And there's Cody. And
What's up,
Cody,
Cody? How you doing, brother?
Hey, Jerry, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine.
so Cody, I was telling Coach a quick story that you'll find. So I did a Zoom with Cody's team last night, which was great. And then after that, I joined my own fraternity pledge class of 91, Gettysburg College, and we did our own Zoom, okay? So I guess as these things work, Cody, you would know this.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently on Zoom, you sort of get your own personal meeting room. And if
Yeah.
you're doing different meetings, a lot of them still, I think they all still have the same ID.
Right.
Okay, so this is back to last night, 7 o'clock. I'm on with all my former college buddies, and various people are popping in. And I'm like, why are people in this meeting? And they thought that our meeting was tonight. So catchers were tuning in.
No way.
My college, and my buddies were like, get out of here, so it was pretty funny.
Yeah. Different kind of meeting.
What's that?
Different kind of meeting?
It was a different kind of meeting, yes. There was a couple of adult beverages in that meeting, which there you
Yeah.
can be tonight. So I'm going to do this, Coach. I'm just going to make sure I do for you is I'm going to make sure that you're also co-host,
Okay.
so that if you want to share screen or anything like that, we're able to do
Well,
that.
let me run off and get some stuff in case I need to do that. Hold, hang
Fine.
on. Hang with
Yep.
me.
Cody, you're in the same. So, Cody, we got
Yeah.
Grant here from Ohio who plays center in football and also catches, like you played goalie. So, Grant, Cody was a 4-year starter for us at Sacred Heart. Unbelievable defender. And actually, one of the things that I was going to ask Coach later on is like,
Yeah.
an umpire does a great job when really you didn't even know the guy was there.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
And I kind of feel in a way like this was your catching style. Like you were so good
Mhm.
because we didn't until you threw somebody out. Like you just did. You know what I'm saying? In other words, you just did the job. Whereas I've had years where you don't have catchers, a good catcher, and it becomes not a sport. It's like a disaster.
Yeah.
Right.
So, Coach, I was saying that a lot of times, and I was going to ask you this once we actually officially start, but having a good catcher, it almost like the better they are, the less you notice that they're there sometimes, right? If they're not running to the backstop, if they're not receiving terribly.
I notice them all the time, no matter what.
Of course. It's like a good umpire. When you start noticing an umpire a lot, generally this is a problem.
Yeah, umpires are different.
Yeah. I know Tedesco is going to join us too.
I sent the link to all the guys we had last night.
Yeah.
I'm sure Luke will come on.
Yeah. He looks good. How's his body?
Yeah, he's in good shape. He's a little guy. He's like 5'8", 5'9",
Yeah,
but he's in great shape. He works really hard.
that's good because,
Yeah.
when we were interested in him, first of all, I loved his receiving. I loved everything about him.
Yeah.
But then I forget exactly what happened, but I thought there was a stretch where he was not in great shape.
Okay.
And then last night, I mean, the kid's in tremendous shape.
Yeah, I mean, I've only known him for, the year, but yeah, he's in great shape. I mean, he's a kid. That's all he does is baseball, baseball, baseball.
Yeah. And so unfortunately, you've actually never seen him catch?
No, I worked with him maybe like 10, probably up to 10 times throughout the.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he seemed to have that great stance, the great ankle mobility, and
yeah, he's just a really good athlete. He throws
Yeah.
the shit out of the ball too.
yeah, yes.
He's got a cannon.
Yeah, he does.
He's the type of guy like he would throw 100 balls to second base. Like you gotta
back him off a little.
train him in a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. I guess
It's
that he
funny.
can do that.
I
But
was just on a thing previously with a few coaches, and Corey Mascara was on, who's the pitching coach at Maryland.
okay. Yeah.
So, nothing, I didn't have an opportunity to say, hey, what's your catching situation? How's Luke going to do? But
Yeah. I know they have a junior who, from what Luke told me, is they have a junior who was going to get drafted. I don't know how this will all affect that.
right.
And he was going to have a good chance to play right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that guy will be back. I
Right.
think he was in Brewster last summer. I can't think of his name.
Brewster. Where was he from?
He's from Maryland. I'll look him up right now. I remember Brewster had one infield outfield. They had like 5 catchers out there. Let me look him up.
You're in the right spot there, Coach Pat.
Justin Vogt.
How do you spell it?
Vought.
Okay. I love when, like this gentleman who's just connecting now, I love when the daughter or the younger kid is there getting the parent set up.
And now this will stop and start your video.
Eric,
You.
now, is the way it's set up at the moment, everyone can see everybody?
Yes.
Okay. You want to show your shirt, Eric? I like that one.
Oh, well.
Eric, that was a very fun session.
I had a lot of fun, man. I felt like we could have gone on for another hour, no problem.
Absolutely.
You know, great guys and, just a lot of content.
Yeah. And Eric, one of the guys on the screen here, Cody Doyle.
Sure.
Cody played for me at Sacred Heart, and now is coaching 3 sports at Trinity Pauling.
Awesome.
And then also he went to Avon Old Farms. His parents worked there, and he coached in the Cape for Coach Weinstein.
Awesome.
And I know you have a connection to Coach Weinstein, which you could say in a minute.
Right.
But the interesting thing was Cody has a kid at Trinity Pauling who's a grad student who's going to catch at Maryland next year.
Oh, no kidding. He's also got an outfielder going to play at Pepperdine.
Yeah, we do. Connor Bradshaw.
Yeah, he trains at my place.
Does he?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. He's a good hitter, right? I didn't get to see him play much, but.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder more about the mental part with him, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I just don't know what his makeup is. He can swing it for sure.
Right.
He's got all the tools. He can run. He can throw. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him, Cody.
Yeah, for sure.
And before Coach, we'll start shortly, but Eric, do you want to tell Coach your connection with him if he doesn't remember? You do? Okay, good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did a great job to get the Israelis to the Olympics.
Coach, finally I get to meet you over Zoom.
You bet.
Eric, do you want to tell the people that are in so far about your background?
So my background is I was coaching college baseball for many, many years. I coached at Manhattanville College here in New York, and then Westchester Community College. Coach Mazzoni and I go back probably to the early 90s, where we played softball together, fast pitch softball in Central Park. Once my baseball career was over, Coach Mazzoni also helped me with my oldest son in the recruiting process to get to Bucknell. And that was probably 2009, 2010. And most recently, I became in 2016 the head coach of the Israeli national team, not to get confused with Coach Weinstein in the World Baseball Classic. And this past summer, we qualified for the Olympics, which is now going to be 2021, pushed back due to the coronavirus.
And Eric, for those that are local, because we have some people from all over, which is what's great about this, but there's a billboard. It may make you possibly drive off the road, but there's a billboard of Eric and also a radio commercial about from Hospital for Special Surgery, correct?
Well, it was actually Montefiore, and I'm hoping that came down. A lot of my friends nearly got into car accidents or spit hot coffee out driving down the road. There were actually 11 billboards with this good-looking bald head on it. So,
all right. So we'll have people joining in. I think this is kind of my first of these Zooms where just people I don't know are popping in, and I think we'll have a respectful group. So at the moment, I'm just going to keep everybody able to speak. I know some people have their thing muted, but my intention for this was, first of all, to learn from Coach Weinstein, who I've seen speak at clinics. The man's forgotten more about catching than I'll ever know. And I will also say I'm a lefty, so I've never squatted behind there except on occasional bullpens when there's not a catcher to go around and I put the gear on and catch a pitcher. It's very scary, frankly. I'm 50, so catching a guy throwing 92 at sink is no fun on your thumb. But what I wanted to do is learn a little bit more about Coach's background and then get into some specific conversation about catching. I'm going to kind of treat the catching thing a little bit from a pitching point of view, and then we'll certainly open it up to questions. And I know I have a couple of former players, Steve Tedesco, who has some questions about his own catcher, and we'll just get a nice conversation going. But I've been doing a fair amount of these, Coach, and one of the things I'm always kind of the place I like to start off with, which I'd like to do with you, is what was, Jerry Weinstein like in junior high, high school? What sports did you play? What kind of led to you to be the man you are today?
Well, just like a lot of coaches, they thought they were really good and found out that they weren't, and you move more toward coaching than playing. But I played football and baseball. I tried to play football at UCLA when I went there, and that ended in a hurry. So I played baseball at UCLA from Southern California, West LA, and just probably similar to a lot of the other guys on there. When baseball was in season, you played baseball. Football was in season, you played football. Did not play any basketball, but have been a long time condition type guy. I've run marathons and I lift weights, and I'm 76 and I still run. I ride my bike a lot more, especially these days, and lift and do a lot of baseball stuff. I work for the Rockies. I work in scouting and player development. I see all the top catchers in the country. I've gotten a chance to, and then run through our farm system and work with our catchers and are more of a mentorship type role in the minor leagues with our managers, coaches, and coordinators. And had a chance to coach 2 U.S. Olympic teams. I'm on the USA Olympic staff that we still have to qualify this year to get in, and hopefully we do. And coach the U.S. Pan Am team. I've coached a couple of years in the big leagues, been professional baseball for the last 13 with the Rockies as a manager, coach, and coordinator. And a lot of, over 60 years of coaching, so had a lot of different roles and done a lot of different things, and at every level imaginable.
And just a couple of questions off that. Would you what is your view on that 2-sport or 3-sport kid now here in 2020? Are you still all for it like you were when you were back as a player? Have you changed your mind on that at all?
No, I think it's individualized. I think kids should do what they want to do, not what their parents want them to do. And if they want to play 2 sports, 3 sports, or no sports, that's fine. I'm not a big fan of specializing and putting all your eggs in one basket early on. I think that there's a lot of physical lessons and development that is sports specific, and you get tied into one sport, you lose out on some development opportunities in other sports. But again, I'm for what the kids want to do and what they get pleasure from.
Okay. And so after college, what was your very first, that period after college? What did you kind of immediately do work-wise after college?
Well, I graduated in 1965 from UCLA, and the next year, in California, you have to take a graduate year to get your teaching credential, and I started work on my master's and my teaching credential, and I coached the freshman team at UCLA when I was done playing. Then I went to high school for a year, but continued to work on my master's. I coached football and baseball, and it was an hour commute, and I was just married, had a kid very shortly after we were, within a year we had a daughter, and so I decided, I'd go back to UCLA and finish up on my master's, and had zero money and was hoping to get a college job. I got my master's in Kines at UCLA and coached the freshmen again, and then no jobs. And then I got another high school job in Santa Monica. And the day I signed the contract, I got offered a college job that I turned down because I had already said I would coach at this particular high school. Stayed there for 3 years, Santa Monica High School. Then went to LA Valley College as an assistant, which is a community college in Southern California. Then went to Sacramento City College, which is in Northern California, for 24 years. And just about every summer I went out and I was probably in 1980, I was probably the first catching coordinator in professional baseball for the Brewers, but I'd worked in scouting for the Orioles and then after the catching coordinator, I managed for Montreal and the Cubs and then went to University of Miami for a year. I helped Ron Frazier in 1984. We came in 5th in the College World Series. And then after that, went back to Sacramento and then got a job with the Dodgers in 1999 as the catching coordinator. And the next year I was the director of player development for 2+ years, and then got fired and went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo as the assistant, and then I worked there for about 5 years as the pitching coach, and then after that I went to work for the Rockies. I've been with them for the last 13.
Whew, I mean, your luggage has been well traveled, Coach.
Yes, yeah, I have a very supportive wife.
Yeah, don't we all? A couple of things out of that. I don't want to sidetrack us in this. Do you know Russ Beauvais?
Give me a little.
Russ Beauvais was a very long time scout with the Brewers, and now is currently a scout with the Toronto Blue Jays.
No,
Okay.
I stopped working for the Brewers in '83.
Okay, and then
from '80 to '83 with a guy named Ray Poitevin and Harry Dalton was the GM at the time.
okay, and from really early on in your experience, did you really drill down to catching immediately? Was that always your passion, always the thing you were interested in?
Well, my passion was everything, but I was a catcher, and so when I first got hired in professional baseball as a catching coordinator, we had signed a guy from Florida, high draft pick, a kid named Nick Hernandez, who was struggling, and they had a bunch of money invested in him at the time, and so they hired me to fix him. I couldn't fix him, but I did help Bill Schroeder get to the big leagues, and he spent about 15 or 16 years in the big leagues, and is their color guy right now, and so they get their money's worth.
Okay, and then one kind of last thing before we kind of get to a different segment. How would you describe your role with the Rockies now? What does that entail?
Well, it's a pretty diverse role. I have my hands and do a little of everything relative to, from the scouting standpoint, my main focus, I see all the top amateur catchers in the country, and I'll go around and I have a lot of contacts, so I'm able to go in early and possibly work the kid out and get a good read on him and go in for a weekend, just bear down on one guy, and then line him up for the draft for our scouting director, Bill Schmidt, and his assistant, Mark Gustafson. And then player development, I go to instructional league and spring training, and spend time with everybody. I help our pretty much what I've been doing is handling all the bunting from the big leagues on down, more with the minor league guys, and then wherever I'm needed, do a lot of PFP stuff with the pitchers, help the catching coordinator. When we start playing games, I just rove around with a different team every day, or maybe the same team for a week, and just more or less sit there and talk to coaches, pitching coaches, hitting coaches, and whoever will listen to me.
Right. And then, and how long has the Cape been part of your experience?
Well, in 2016, I managed Wareham. Then 2017, I went back to work full time for the Rockies, and I managed Hartford in the Eastern League. And then 2018, I helped it in Katuitt. And then last year, I went back to Wareham. And so, which the Rockies like, because, you know, the Cape is heavily scouted, but they're not there 100% of the time. And I get to see guys play when there are not a lot of scouts there. So we think that from a makeup standpoint gives us a leg up. And so we have a Rockies presence there throughout the season.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, makes sense. All right. So kind of switching gears, and we're going to get to the catching piece in a little bit. With your unbelievable background and your work, even, you know, from a pitching perspective, you know, I'm assuming the people that are joining us here are either current catchers or coaches that just want to learn probably more about catching. But maybe just for a couple minutes, if there was a developing high school pitcher sitting here listening in to someone with your experience, you know, is there any advice you'd give to a developing pitcher on things to focus on? I see you have you got the baseball ranch hat on. You know, maybe even want to talk about that experience. Just any advice in general for a developing young pitcher?
Well, the baseball ranch, I've spoken at their clinic 3 or 4 times. This last year, I went down twice. I spoke to the pitchers on pitch calling, and then I went back and we had a catcher's clinic. So Ron Wolford and Brent Strom and Jill and all, we've been very close for a long time. But, you know, from a pitching standpoint, I think that we're really enthralled with stuff and velocity, and we forgot that we're supposed to get people out, and that is at any level. And it's not all about velocity. Velocity is important because the one correlation between pitching success and the thing that correlates the most, especially at the highest level, is velocity. Velocity is important, but velocity is relative. A guy that has velocity alone and can't hit his target and can't change speeds, he doesn't have very much success. Big league hitters could hit a bullet. Doesn't matter how fast it's going. If they're geared to that rhythm, that fastball rhythm, and you make a mistake with it, chances are it's going to get hit. Now, at the higher velocities, they're less exact with their bat ball skills. But you can create velocity with location, ability to pitch inside off the plate, inside for strikes. You can create velocity by changing speeds and having speed spreads. But overreachingly, if you look at the one thing that keeps people from having success is their ability to hit their target. It's usually the quality of their pitch, and the quality is more about location than anything else. And just having been in big league dugouts, and catchers get a lot of blame for, well, why'd you call that pitch? Why'd you call this pitch? And whatever. And when you really sit down and evaluate it, it wasn't the fastball or the breaking ball or the curveball or the changeup that was called. It was the quality of the pitch that was being thrown. And I think we're all about the radar gun today. Not that the radar gun isn't important, because mistakes at higher speeds are less likely to get hit, but overwhelmingly it's the lack of quality, and the number one quality the pitch has to have is location. Yeah, no, that's well said. I echo that completely. Thank you. That doesn't mean, hey, Johnny, nice and easy, just hit your target. Right. You know, it's more than that. But it's working velocity that's important, and working velocity is relative to their ability to hit their target a high percentage of the time. Yeah, I would totally agree. This is, you know, it's always daunting to speak with someone like you, because there's
literally, I mean, you're the authority on catching, from books to videos to everything. It's tremendous. So I want to try to get some questions that give you an opportunity to answer it whatever way you want. But from the pitcher's perspective, what is the 2, 3, however many you'd like to say, what is the main thing you want to see out of catchers to help the pitcher be better at his task?
Well, the number one thing overwhelmingly is to pitch call to the pitcher's strengths. If I had a great scouting report on your team and I knew your players better than you knew them, and I didn't know my pitcher, or I didn't know your team at all, it's the first time I've ever seen them, but I knew my pitcher, 100 out of 100, I'd choose knowing the pitcher, because pitchers get people out with their strengths. It's not necessarily strength against weakness, or I much prefer go strength against strength, and invariably you get hitters out with their pitch. If he's a fastball hitter, chances are you're going to get him out with a fastball. Number one, he's going to swing at it, and until he swings the bat, you don't have a chance to get that guy out. If you take probably the best fastball hitter of this generation, which is Albert Pujols, and you look at his numbers, and you look at what he hits, and undoubtedly he crushes the fastball, no doubt. But over 50% of his outs are on fastballs. And the key to pitching is pitching to that guy's strengths within his swing zone and outside his solid contact zone. He doesn't control the whole strike zone. Most of those guys have a small zone that they cover, and that's one of the things, probably one of the issues for me with hitting coaches today, that they're trying to make hitters into hitters before they have a good swing, and they're trying to limit the amount of strike zone, and it's all about strike zone discipline. Well, I want a guy to have as big a strike zone as he can handle, biggest hard hit area, solid contact area, as opposed to a small area that he has discipline and can control, because then that gives the pitcher too many safe havens to go to. But again, that one question you asked me, the number one thing for me is pitch to the pitcher's strengths.
Okay, so I'll fire this right back at you. What is your view on, I go to places and I see 10-year-olds getting pitches called from the dugout. It drives me crazy. I think it takes away the enjoyment. I mean, when Cody was the catcher for me, Cody, I mean, you're silenced now, but you called the majority of pitches while at Sacred Heart, correct?
Yeah, probably 95%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was because, I knew I had a future coach behind the plate. I don't always do that. And I think, I don't want to get into me much, but I think it goes by who's on the mound, who's catching. I might call 2 innings and then give it to the catcher. But what is your take on the calling of pitches from the bench at all levels that it happens?
Well, the number one take I have is that the pitcher's responsibility for the pitch that he throws. And unfortunately, what has happened, not only coaches calling pitchers, but pitchers abdicating the responsibility for the pitch that is thrown and placing responsibility on catcher, coach, or whoever's calling that pitch. It's merely a suggestion. We just put a pitch down. It's a suggestion. It's up to that pitcher to determine what pitch he's going to throw. And no longer are guys using wipes to change location or change pitches. They just throw the pitch that they just follow that catcher's signals, or the signal, or the pitch that the coach called. And then if things don't work out, then it's not their fault. I think pitchers, number one, have to take more responsibility. Number two, I'm not opposed to coaches calling pitches. I think that coming from a pro guy, that probably sounds a little different. But as long as there's a teaching process going on, that post-game, that after the game, that coach has charted that game every pitch and sits down with that catcher and explains to him why I called this pitch in this situation, so that there's a teaching and learning experience going on here. And then turning over parts of every game to the catcher to let him find out what is going to work for him and his pitcher. Overwhelmingly, the guy sitting behind home plate has the best view of what is going to be best based on how his pitcher is throwing, what he's throwing, and how the hitter reacts, how the umpire is reacting to certain pitches. So ideally, you'd like to have that catcher call that pitch. Now, again, it's a suggestion. So not only do you have to coach your catchers, but you have to coach your pitchers. So you have to have some type of plan or system going in. You need to spend time instructing that system, working with those guys on a catcher, pitching staff or catchers and pitching staff basis. Hey, this is our philosophy. It's going to be a little bit different for each guy because every guy has a little different pitching arsenal and abilities, and so that the pre-game preparation in practice and then dialogue in between innings during the game, preparing for the next inning or evaluating the last inning, and not placing blame or response. Hey, that was a bad pitch. Just what was your thinking here? Because every game is every pitch of every game is a development opportunity. Because when you sit back there and you're calling pitches as a catcher, you're calling one pitch at a time. I think too often we have these scouting reports and we get way ahead of ourselves. Well, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. To me, I'm going to throw this pitch. And before I determine as a catcher, what I'm going to ask the pitcher to throw the next pitch is going to be based on three things. One, how did he throw that pitch? How did the hitter react to that pitch? And three, where do I think the hitter's attention zone is going on the next pitch? I'll give you an example. I throw a breaking ball, and it's a really poor breaking ball. It's one of those 55-foot breaking balls. Number one, I know, obviously, and the pitcher knows that wasn't very good. Do I throw another breaking ball and give him a chance to make an adjustment off that breaking ball? That's number one. Number two, as a hitter, I know that once that guy throws such a poor breaking ball, if it's a must-throw strike situation, that he's definitely probably sitting on fastball. So the last thing he's looking for is another breaking ball. So I think too often that when a guy doesn't execute a pitch, that we automatically go to another pitch, and it happens quite frequently with off-speed pitches. So every time a guy throws a breaking ball, it's automatic fastball, and he never gets a chance to make an adjustment off of the previous pitch. So those are some of the factors for me that are going to determine what the next pitch is. Now, obviously, situations are going to factor in. If it's a pitch around situation, I'm going to have a little more extensive plan going in terms of a series of two-strike pitches that I'm asking that hitter to expand the zone on, or if it's an infield in situation and I've got two strikes, I'm trying to strike this guy out. So early in the count, I try and throw a swing and a miss pitch because all the data that we have shows that the majority of strikeouts are preceded by swing and misses early in the count, and that's a lot of people don't understand that. But so depends on situations, but it also depends on those three factors: how he threw the pitch, how the hitter reacted to that pitch, and where he's going on the next pitch in terms of what he's looking for, what's his mindset.
I like that a lot. Switching gears a touch, and I've said this so long, I'm going to ask you, and I hope you confirm it, because if not, I'm going to have to change what I've been saying, which is, I believe that a catcher.
I wouldn't change just because I said it. That'd be a mistake.
I've long said that a catcher has a significant role to play in, if you will, changing a pitcher's delivery by their setup. So, for example, I've got a lefty guy just consistently missing arm side. He's just missing arm side. He's getting behind in counts. Obviously, we could get detailed on what's going on in the delivery, but the ball is telling us something's happening, and he's missing arm side away from a righty.
I'm going to make you happy. I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer that I am a huge enabler for that pitcher relative to making location adjustments, whether it's with my target. Is it one knee? Do I move farther away from the arm side? Do I bring a secondary pitch into play here to advance his release point so that the next fastball he throws, maybe he's going to get a little better extension as a result of the breaking ball, even though the breaking ball is not thrown with as much extension as the fastball. But I honestly do believe that catcher can, as a matter of fact, that's my job. My job is to bring that guy into the strike zone and help him make adjustments without going into mechanics, because there are so many variables in pitching that any one of a number of mechanical adjustments may or may not work, and they most likely will not. I want that guy in the visual sense. I don't want him in his kinesthetic or feel sense. I want his focus to be over the plate as opposed to over the mound.
Love that. That's beautifully said. That's fantastic. I completely agree. That's good. On that note, I don't know when, maybe it was your invention, the one knee I love. I mean, certainly no one was going to a knee when I was pitching growing up, but now I see it all the time, and I absolutely love it. I just think from a visual standpoint on the mound, it's just really gives a nice view. In fact, I don't want to reveal anything that's from another organization, but I was kind of told that one organization throughout all levels is making the catchers receive the ball on one knee all the time, no matter what the situation. We'll see if that plays out when we get back to big.
That's the Minnesota Twins, so you guys can look at that organization so you can see those guys. But the fact of the matter is that
man knows everything.
That guys have been down on a knee for years. Manny Sanguin caught on a knee in the 70s and 60s, 70s, and 80s. There are guys that have always caught on, not to the extent that they're catching on a knee right now. And we can thank the analytic guys for that, because they've it used to be in the day, well, he's a good catch and throw guy. Nobody said anything about their receiving. And for years, I wrote a book in 1980 about receiving, talking about you win with the straw ball. And but now with the analytic people and the runs saved, for instance, if you take the three, there's really four pillars of catching. There's catching, blocking, receiving, and game management. The pitch calling piece and pitch calling and so on and so forth. But if you take if you just take receiving, blocking, and throwing, the top guys in baseball, it's how many runs they save above the average catcher. Now, last year, Austin Hedges saved 27 and a fraction runs above average. 27 runs translates into 3 or 4 big league wins, just by virtue of how he received above the average guy. If you took the average guy and exchanged him for Austin Hedges, the San Diego Padres lose three or 4 more games. Now, a big league win is worth about $9 million. So that's just by virtue of his receiving. He's worth 27, or he's worth $36 million. All right, now you take blocking. Above the average guy, the best blocker in baseball is about 1 run. Throwing, the best thrower in baseball is about 4 runs. So the receiving piece, because we're talking about over 10,000 pitches over the course of a season, and each pitch, especially a pitch that's a strike or a straw ball, a ball in the shadow zone that could be a strike, could be a ball, or balls that are called strikes. Every time those turn to the strike ledger, you're going to give up fewer runs. You save runs. So that's where those plus runs come. Every time it becomes a ball, you're going to give up more runs. So everyone has a value. Now, different counts and different situations have different values. So that's where they come into the run save category. So getting back, I'm kind of digressing, but getting back to that one knee deal, what they are feeling is that guys are, when they're on a knee, they get more strikes, more straw balls, lose fewer strikes. Now that's yet to be proven statistically. I had the Inside Edge guys, one of the 2 big scouting firms for all MLB teams that have millions upon millions of pitching data to be able to evaluate. It's not something they've done. Compared catchers when they're down on a knee, when they're on a traditional 2-foot stance, and throwing this pitch in that zone with this runner on base and with this pitcher throwing. So the data is not substantial enough to validate whether down on a knee is better or not. But our feeling is just gut feel, intuitive, that it's quieter, it's more relaxed, and it provides a better visual lane for the umpire. And the umpire, on a given day, you're going to win based on what 3 guys do: the pitcher, the catcher, and the umpire. And the catcher's a teammate with both. The catcher's a teammate with the umpire, and the catcher's a teammate with the pitcher. And the catcher and the pitcher both want pretty much the same thing. When you go behind the plate, I want to make sure that every pitch is a strike is called a strike, and at least 50% of those straw balls or shadow pitches are called strikes. That makes you average. Now, in the course of a big league game, there's somewhere between 18 and 36 straw balls, pitches that go either way. Balls on the corner, fastballs above the belt, breaking balls at the belt, fastballs below the knees, and breaking balls at the knees that probably could go either way. And the average catcher gets about 18 strikes. He's about 50-50. The better guys, that's where they earn their stripes and they save runs. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a picture of the importance of each pitch.
And if we're also talking about in 2020 and recently with the launch angle and guys throwing up in the zone more with the spin rate and all that, can you still be on a knee and receive and effectively get that high pitch still?
Oh, easier. It's easier to get to the high pitch on a knee for me because you're working down to up, and when you're up a little bit higher and you're looking for a ball down, say, and they miss up, you're kind of in between. You're always you're down, you're working down and then up to the pitch. To me, it's really easy to get to the high ball from a knee because you're working from a down position, much like an infielder. You know, infielders work from the ground up, and catchers are the same way. If you watch closely those center field cameras, the catchers may start with their target maybe at the knees or below it, but as soon as the pitcher starts his arm forward or just before release, most catchers today are dropping their glove down to the ground where their thumb is about maybe at 5 o'clock, almost resting on home plate. And some pitchers didn't like that early on, but they're finding that, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting a lot more pitches called strikes as a result of this, so I'm going to find a different targeting point rather than glove, or I'm going to be able to throw to a spot without having such a finite focus on the glove.
That's very interesting. It's funny. Again, this is why I love doing this. You've told me a couple of things already, and that's one. We faced a guy this year, only played 13 games, but the guy did that glove kind of dip down, and I kind of thought I didn't like it from the visual standpoint. I thought he was sort of doing it accidentally. Maybe he was doing that on purpose. Well,
I'm not a big fan of a lot of glove drop on release. I'd rather have them start their glove down and their target open with their glove down, kind of where your glove is parallel to the target and your thumb is down below the target, because you've got to work down to up to get the low ball. If you work from above the ball, try and go down and get it and bring it back up, you have no chance. And that's whether you bring it up and out or if you bring it up and flex it back in. I'm not too concerned whether you're a flex to extend to flex, or if you're a flex to extend guy and move it with your shoulder, if you're making a lateral move, bringing the ball back into the strike zone.
Okay, so that kind of just leads to something I was going to ask you. You a little bit touched on it. And this is going to be, you're going to laugh that a guy who spent his entire life in college coaching is going to ask such a rudimentary question. But I feel like I know hitting and pitching, where the shortstop goes on a double cut, I have no idea, and I don't kind of want to learn it because my brain I'm trying to figure out Rapsodo, not where the shortstop's supposed to go. So how many framing receiving techniques are there, or how many do you teach or want to see? If anyone here is, how would you answer that framing receiving question?
Well, I always default back to, it's all based on the individual player and what works best for the player. And we've got enough data where we can evaluate it. And there are basically 3 techniques. Well, there's probably 4 techniques, but 3 that are really used in the big leagues today. And I think I have let's see if I can get you this. I put a PowerPoint in. I think I put this receiving one in. Let me see what we got here.
Yeah, you hopefully should be able to share your screen.
Yeah, I can share. If you make me the co-host, I think.
Yeah, I think I've already done so. So why don't you give it a shot? Maybe I have to do it again. So.
Let's see here.
It does say you are co-host, so give it a try.
All right, let me just see where this one is not the one. I'm gonna get one more shot here and see if I can find it.
And a little bit after we go through this, the guys, those of you that are on this, if you want to either just vocally ask a question, I'd be happy to have you do that. If you want to throw it in the chat, you could do that. I know Steve Tedesco, a former player of mine who's got his mic off and his camera off, wanted to either show some video, so we'll see if we could do that. But
sure.
Any luck on that side, Coach?
Yeah, it is opening up, and we'll see what we got here. Yeah, we do. Let's see. Let me get into the share screen mode here. Okay, you got my screen?
I don't yet. Cody, you have his?
No, I don't have it either.
All right.
I'm let me go back and try it again. It's on my screen right now, and let's see.
Yeah, Stevie T.
I'm going to share screen. You know, you may have to make me the host.
I'll do it right now, Coach. I'll make you the host. So you are now the host, and see if that changes.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Have you got my screen on there?
I don't yet, maybe. I'm assuming we're all seeing the same, so no one else sees it, right, Coach?
Oh, now I got
looks
it.
like it's starting now, Coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is now. Yep.
Okay. Let's see what we got.
Your PowerPoints are legendary. I love them.
And by the way, if you guys want to take a picture of this and you need something from me, feel free to get a hold of me. Oh, this is not what I want. Huh. Wrong one. Okay, I'm going to go back. Sorry about that.
Cody, I'm going to ask a question to you while Coach is doing that. It's actually, I know the person. That's hysterical. Should high school catchers catch batting practice?
No, I would say no.
Why? What would be the reason for and against it?
I think there's more productive ways for them to use their time, and I think that it just becomes tedious, and I think that's something that you don't want to make catching tedious. I know, if you're doing like a simulated game, that's good, but just batting practice, how many balls are you really going to catch?
Right. I guess the guys that do it are for coaches that can't throw a strike.
Yeah, I guess visually, but from a catcher's perspective, no.
We see it up there, Coach.
All right, good. All right.
Yeah.
So there's information. And again, okay, I'm not going to go into all this here, but we'll just try and get to, we talked about that Strabal, kind of these are examples of Strabals, the plate being in reality 22 inches wide, 17 plus 2.5 inches for the ball. This is just some from Baseball Savant. I don't know if you can see this, but this is kind of Austin Hedges. This is hard to see. His strike rate was 51.4%. He was like 4% higher than everybody else, and then it gives you the exact percentages on each on each zone. And then I just talk a lot about making sure that we catch the ball. First contact with the ball, whether you flex it back or not, is up to the plate, because the majority of pitches that go through the strike zone at the front of the plate are called strikes. If they don't cross the front of the plate in the strike zone, only 30% of them get called strikes. So I want to make sure the umpire sees that pitch as a strike up to the plate. And then just here is just the value of how one pitch can change the game count-wise. And we always look at that 1-1 count and say, hey, that's a big swing count. But the reality is the 2-1 count is a big one. And if it's a Strabal and the guy doesn't get it called a strike, it's like 821 points of OPS. So that one pitch can really affect a hitter and a pitcher in a ball game. And I'm not going to go over each one of these things here, but again, we talk about beating the ball to the spot. I think that's important. And whether you funnel the ball back into the middle, there are some guys that first contact is up in front and then they flex it back to the middle of the plate. I think that's fine. This is just a comparison between LaCroix and Veritek in 2010. The difference is 57 runs. That's like 7 wins. If LaCroix was on the Red Sox would have won 7 more games based on receiving. And I talked to you before about framing, blocking, and throwing, the differences. This is just from Aaron Gershenfeld, who's the minor league catching coordinator with the Yankees, used to be at the Citadel, sharp young guy. Just the value of, and all this chart is showing the value of receiving versus blocking and throwing percentage-wise. Same thing here, just the impact. And this is the run value of the tools of a major league catcher. How many runs that you create by hitting and base running, and then how many runs that you create by being a good defender. And then this one is one that's easy for you guys to keep in the dugout. And this is the ratio of catchers that out of the strike zone strikes versus in the strike zone balls. Like when you have a pitch in the strike zone, it's called a ball. That's not a good thing. And out of the strike zone strikes, that's a good thing. And so the guys that are the better guys, and Yasmani Grandal always seems to be right up there near the top, Jeff Mathis. And you can see that their ratio was 5.28. The average in the big leagues is about 2.5. And you can see that that's relative outside the zone strikes versus inside zone inside the zone balls. This is a heat map of a minor league catcher that we had in our organization that I had in AA, and he was really good on the ball down, but not very good on the ball up the blue. You can see her. And one of the things he was doing is he was catching the ball up very deep and hoping that in that last foot it was going to drop, especially high breaking balls. And we changed his technique and got him more extended and using his shoulder to push the ball down, and he got measurably better. This is just something that we would get after every game. And so after every game, we would get every pitch in the percentage of strikes and the percentage of balls. And so if we got a high percentage strike pitch, like this one was a 63% strike pitch, and it was called a ball, and this was tied in with a video, and we'd go in and hit this baby right here, and it'd go right to the video. Then we'd be able to analyze why it was called a ball instead of a strike. This is, and you stop me anytime along the way here or ask me anything, because this
Sure.
goes well. This is kind of a little different. I'm going to go back to this one again. I want to stop it though. And catchers aren't catching the ball forehanded very often. They're catching everything backhanded, and they're angling their body in such a way that they can catch the ball backhanded, because that's when they can catch the ball high in the glove in the sweet spot of the glove. And the only time guys catch the ball forehanded is when, for instance, if this is Dustin Garneau, if he was sitting away and the pitcher missed down and into a right-hander, he might forehand the ball. Everything else is going to be pretty much a backhand. But what Garneau does here, and this is his individual technique, he kind of doorknobs it. And when I say doorknobs it, you'll see he just kind of rolls his glove to turn the ball back into the strike zone. But it's very, very subtle. And this is kind of a double frame.
Hit in the head by Jake Arrieta a while back. So
this is Garneau again. Let me go back one. And this is a ball that's up and away. Garrett Cole pitching.
Strikeouts for Cole.
And so he kind of angles his glove a little bit. And I'm just going to go through a few of these, and then I won't go through every one. Just ones that I think this is a good one by LaCroix. Big miss by Garza, but you can see the extension, and he gets that ball up to the plate, and he holds it just long enough where the umpire has a chance to make the call, but not so long that he's going to get pissed off.
Right.
In August of
and this is a little different setup. This is Molina. This is the older brother. And you can see what he's done with his setup here.
in August of
It's kind of on an angle. And what that does, it opens up a visual lane for that umpire. So they're going to try and freeze this guy with a fastball away, a two-seamer that has some run, and he wants the umpire to see it. So he opens up the lane. Sometimes in amateur baseball, this doesn't work too good, because those umpires, they're just barbers and mailmen and umpiring on the side. And when they're that exposed, they get a little bit nervous, especially if a guy doesn't hit his target, because if they miss in, they're going to get drilled.
Scruggs is in the on-deck circle, so that answers the question about
This is
whether
Chris
Lance
Stewart
Lynn's going to go back.
picking the low end pitch. This is LaCroix again.
Tough time with that pitch. Wasn't able to throw the strikes.
You see him let that ball sit. This is Sandy Leone. Now he's a real extender. Now this is Tyler Flowers, and you can see when we talk about the one knee setup, he's probably the guy that initiated all the one knee action. He kind of turns off to the side a little bit, but watch how he drops his glove to the ground at release, and he's very aggressive in picking the low ball up, but he's right up there all the time with the guys who get more strikes than anybody.
It's a little hard to see. It's just a little choppy, but
And you see our guy, Tony Walters, is very similar to that as well.
why don't we do this, Coach? Because it's a little choppy. Why don't I have guys that are in here maybe ask you a few questions?
You bet. Absolutely. Let's do that.
And I could read it, but there's Brett Fuller. Brett, you want to unmute and ask that question to Coach?
Yeah, you bet. Jerry, this really is focused more on pitching. I know you mentioned something about charting earlier. What would you say in a bullpen setting or in a game setting would be the top 3 to 5 things that a coach would want to chart?
Well, number one, when we throw bullpens, when we're in the bullpen segment of bullpens, where we're not working on mechanics, where we're not working on pitch development, pitch quality, where we're just working on making pitches. One of the things I try and do is I have our pitchers script their own bullpen. Okay, or I might script it as well, pre-scripted. So there's things that there are a number of things that we work on. We work on boxing or half boxing. We work on tilting. We work on putaways. Those 4 things. Box is the ability to throw the ball somewhere down within the strike zone, the mid-thigh to below the knees, anywhere over the plate. Half box would be to one side or the other. Tilt would be like up and in or low and away, or reverse low and away to up and in. 2 pitch combinations, doubling up like a fast 4-seam fastball off the plate and a 2-seam fastball that runs back in, or a high fastball with a breaking ball, and then our basic put-away pitches, so that we're either, because the game is basically boxing, half boxing, tilting or reversing, doubling up, or putting hitters away. So rather than working specific counts, we work specific situations. And then we would, usually what we try and do is kind of have the same script for the whole pitching staff, so that we can challenge them in those 4 areas, and then we'll post the results. And it's all based on target hitting. It's not necessarily based on one guy threw at 90 and the other guy threw at 80 in their location, because we know what that means. That the guy that throws 90 and can locate is better than the guy that throws 80 and can locate, if all the other qualities of the pitch are the same. But basically it's about, and for me, making pitches in a bullpen is about location. Now, obviously, movement and change of speeds do factor in, and if those are important for that particular pitcher, then I'm going to evaluate those things. But we would always chart with an inside edge program, and so we would chart everything on the computer, and then they'd get a printout right afterwards, and we'd give them a plus or minus score based on their ability to hit their target.
Coach, how much is that inside edge package? I mean, that very expensive?
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to check with them. I know they're back in the market of doing it, and I highly recommend it. I've used it. Cody's very familiar with it because we used it all summer, and it's a great teaching tool.
Okay. All right. So a couple others here. We're going to go to Cody's dad. So, Brian, you want to unmute and ask that question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Coach, both coaches. Just a quick question about, should catchers set off the plate? For example, if they want the ball inside or outside in an 0-2 count, or is that like a no-no?
Depends on the hitter, depends on the situation. Is it a pitch around situation? Depends on the pitcher, depends on the catcher. I'm a big fan of on or out in 3. If I'm throwing an 0-2 pitch, my goal is to get the guy out on that pitch. My goal is not to throw that pitch to throw another pitch. You know, I'm trying to get it now. And you know, shit happens sometimes. You hit your target and you throw a pitch that you think is a quality pitch, and it really is in terms of location, because that's what you want, and they hit it and they get a hit. You're going to have to live with that. And the worst thing you can do is second guess guys when the results aren't good, yet the process was good. But again, it would depend. I'm more, especially with young guys, because I've seen this happen too often. 0-2, and you know, the guy, hey, we will not give up any 0-2 hits. And so sure, they throw that 10-foot chain link ball or that 50-foot curve ball. Now it's 1 and 2, and now they're trying to throw a fine strike, and they've lost their release point because they were so far out of their strike throwing release point. Now it's 2 and 2, and then you know what's going on in their mind. A lot of negativity. They're saying, well, I don't want to go 3-2, and the next thing you know, they go 3 and 2. And what's their thinking? Well, I can't walk this guy, and the next thing you know, it's 6 pitches and they walk the guy. I'd rather hit my spot 0-2. They give up a hit. I've saved 3 pitches, and my defense is not yelling at me to throw strikes.
Amen. That's well said, Coach. I'm going to pass it off to my guy, Steve Tedesco. Stevie T, take it away.
No, Coach. Hey, Coach Weinstein. Hey, I'm the head coach at San Pedro High School, which is the alma mater of Dustin Garneau. Funny. He told me to tell you hello.
Dustin Garneau is one of the all-time great guys. And
yeah.
Who was the other major league catcher from down there, the Harbor area?
Ashby?
No.
Harper?
Brian Harper.
Harper. There you go.
Yeah. Do you know him?
I've met him a couple times, yeah. But I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Garneau told me to tell you hello. Question, you said it's kind of an all-encompassing question. When you go to see these high school catchers, what's the one thing that's kind of just a common mechanical flaw? Framing, receiving, throwing, could be any area. What's the one thing that you go coast to coast and you just see something, you're just like, man, I wish I could just jump back in the high school ranks and fix this issue because it's an issue that's national or worldwide?
Well, I'm going to give you a bad answer, I'm afraid, because when I go out and see a guy, I look for 2 things. Does he have arm strength? Well, actually 3 things. Actually, 4 things. Does he have flexibility? And we can fix that to a certain extent. Does he have flexibility? Does he have arm strength? Is he an athlete? And can he hit? And does he? But that arm strength, the 2 overriding things: can he throw and can he hit? And especially, does he have an impact bat? Because as a catching instructor, we feel that we can fix all the other stuff. It's hard to a guy that has well below raw arm strength. It's hard to get him where you need to have him. Obviously, that's a real simple answer, and you know, but the thing that I see more than anything else is that guys pitch away from their pitch call, or maybe it's a process that the coach is doing that. Guys sit off the plate too much. For me, the best place for young catchers to sit is in the middle of the plate. And so for me, that's one of the things that is problematic, and it's not a physical thing. I think it's more of a coaching thing. And the other thing is that you know, from a throwing standpoint, that guys they rush to throw and they get too much forward momentum instead of just getting alignment and getting rid of the ball. Everything is, you know, they're diving out and running to second base to throw the ball, and they're stepping on the plate. To me, it's just a simple drop step right behind left and left to the target. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on, you know, from a setup standpoint, they're too high, and you know, but again, it's very individual. But pretty much the guys that I see, I hate to say, are the more polished guys, and otherwise I wouldn't be going and seeing them, because I'm seeing more the high end guys. So I can't really with certainty answer that question, because I'm seeing pretty good catchers most of the time.
So what separates follow-up question, Coach Mazzoni, if I may. What
Of course.
How are you separating these guys who have these big power arms? Is it just their pop time home to second base? I mean, you got to be dealing with hundreds of seconds. What's the separating factor in terms of arm strength there?
Well, there's two factors relative to arm strength. One is rotation, because if you have bad rotation, unless you've got super arm strength, it's hard to carry bad rotation 126 plus feet to second base. So, but that's something that's fixable, because we spend a lot of time working on rotation with our catchers and spin rate and spin axis. The big separator is usually going to be raw arm strength, and because we feel like in the throwing process that the ball is in the air longer than it is in your hands from catch to release, maybe 1.5 times. So raw arm strength is an important thing, but again, guys with lesser raw arm strength and not good rotation can improve their inline carry, which will help their arm strength play up. The average major leaguer's raw arm strength in games on throws is 81 miles an hour. The better guys, the top guys, are in that 88, 89 range. I think number one was Francisco Mejia, the guy that's the backup guy down in San Diego, young guy that was with Cleveland, and he averaged like 89.6. Gary Sanchez was very close.
Awesome.
Wow.
Thank you, Coach.
Anybody else that's on in the audience here that's been listening have a question?
Doesn't have to be just catching. Anything you got, we could try and answer it.
We have a good friend of mine who is, I don't know if we're all watching the same screen. He's trying to connect. Is Pat Pinkman, a really excellent pitching coach at Seton
I know
Hall.
Pat, and I know his dad well, John. Yeah. Hey, Pat, how you doing?
That's why I was actually sending him a message, because he's having a hard time connecting. I wanted to see if he had any, had any questions for you. I'll go just kind of one last one from me, because I want to be respectful of your time and everyone's time. But converting people to catching, I've always felt that the number one thing is they have to want to do it. To go begrudgingly to try to do it never seems to work. So, I mean, have you any thoughts or experience taking somebody that the organization wanted to do, or it could be just a private person you've worked with? Thoughts on just that moving to catcher?
Yeah, that's number one. They got to want to do it. I've had two. Jordan Pacheco was a second baseman at University of New Mexico, and then I had a kid named Gino Petralli at Sac City who caught tenures in the big leagues with the Rangers in Cleveland, and Tony Walters is a convert. Matter of fact, I would say that the very, very, very high percentage of the catchers in professional baseball are converts. And I'm sure that as little leaguers, we're all shortstops or something other than a catcher. And matter of fact, that's what I'm doing right now. We can't see players, so I'm looking at guys on video on our Synergy video to see if I feel like this guy can catch. I just look at guy's bat, if he can hit, and he's got some power, and he's got some raw arm strength and some athleticism, like those heavy-legged third basemen. I've got some candidates out there right now that, yes, we're if they are interested and committed to doing that we would possibly explore that.
That's interesting. There's a kid that I know. I don't know if anyone on the Zoom will know, but his name's Chad Knight. Kind of came to fame when he led Westport, Connecticut, close to where I am, to World Series. He was a pitcher, and he's now a freshman at Duke. Unfortunately, like everybody, the season canceled on him, but he's a converted catcher. And, legit, actually, Yankees drafted him in the 30th, knowing he was going to Duke anyway. But he's kind of at first didn't want to do it. Here's what was very funny from this kid, too, is, I used to give him pitching lessons, and he was one of these guys. I mean, he's partially Japanese, and he would throw definitely 150 pitch bullpens. I mean, he would never stop. Sometimes he wouldn't signal his catcher. He would throw a lot of figuring out pitches, 47-foot curveballs. And then about 2 months after I first saw him in his change into catcher, he goes, "Everybody's getting even now on me." He was finally getting all that stuff back. squatting and getting beat up and all that stuff, and guys not signaling pitches and all that. But he's an interesting one, and he's a heck of a kid that if he's not going to make it as a player, he's going to be a GM. He's incredibly bright. I don't know if anyone else here on this call knows who that kid is. Eric, do you know who that is?
I don't.
Okay, yeah. All right, Coach, anything final before we kind of sign off? Maybe this is something in a couple of weeks we revisit, but anything else that you'd like to share with the group?
But do that. Feel free. I've got plenty of time. I'm getting real good at these Zoom things. Not real good, but I'm getting experience. I'm logging lots of hours.
I was talking to other people today, and I don't know if every sport, lacrosse and field hockey, does this. Baseball has just always been a sport that seems to share knowledge. I mean, I've learned so much and been able to teach kids, but learn things myself. I mean, Eric Holtz and I were on with a coach from Binghamton, a coach from Maryland, and a coach from Richmond, and just had a great conversation. And boy, from every time you sit in here with somebody, there's things you can learn, or just say it a different way. Or it was, I mean, Coach Herba from Binghamton was talking about thing he loves about college coaching is the changing of the seasons, how each season he plays this different role, from recruiter to instructor to game manager. And I thought it was just kind of neat. So I so appreciate your time, and I think everybody else here does as well. And look forward to connecting down the road in any capacity.
You bet. Call me if you need anything. Cody, give me a buzz.
Will do. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Take care.
Sounds
Feel
good.
free to
Hey,
reach
good
out
luck,
to me or
Derek.
Coach.
Jerry, thank you. Take care, my friend.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks,
Take care,
guys.
everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks again, Coach. See you, Doyles.
See ya. Thanks.
Yep.